Wendy, are we ready in the back?
We are.
Okay, Jane, are we ready in the front? Perfect. Colors, are we ready up front? Yes. Okay, wonderful. Good morning. Today is Wednesday, October 25th, 2023, and we'd like to welcome everyone to the board meeting. We'll call this meeting to order at 9 o'clock a.m. You can join today's board meeting via phone. Dial 971-254-3149. Conference ID 736-023-979#. Audio capabilities are listen only and offered on a best effort for the public. Our meeting is also live streamed, and you can join us by going online to tctvonline.com and click on live broadcasts. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to mute their phone. You can do this by pressing *6. Please unmute your phone when your agenda item is ready to be discussed. For those joining via computer, please unmute your microphone and turn on your camera when your agenda item is called. All others must remain muted with their cameras turned off. Thank you. Public comment. Those intending to provide public comment to the board may attend in person or email submissions to publiccomments@co.tillamook.or.us. Public comments received by 12 p.m. on Tuesday will be distributed to the board, posted online before the meeting, and become part of the public record. You may also provide public comment virtually by registering ahead of time. To register, please email publiccomments@co.tillamook.or.us by 12 p.m. on the Tuesday prior to the board meeting. Public comments can also be mailed to the Board of Commissioners Office, 201 Laurel Avenue, Tillamook, Oregon, 97141. For more information on public comment options, please visit the Board of Commissioners webpage. Do we have anyone signed up in the room, or has anyone registered online for public comment?
There are none.
We have no public comments today. Thank you. Okay, we have already called the meeting to order, so I will once again welcome all of our guests in the room and invite them to sign the guest list if they have not yet done that. And I do want to call out one very special guest in the room with us today. We have Mr. Doug Olson, who will be our next incoming commissioner. So good morning, Doug. Thank you for being here. We appreciate that and look forward to seeing you very frequently.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
All right. Okay, we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Yamamoto, would you lead us today?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So we do not have any public comments. We do have one postponed agenda item today, and that is item number 15, which is the care lease. We did not get it signed back, so we will go ahead and postpone that for this week and hopefully see it back next week. Okay, so we get to start our day today with a presentation, which is always a wonderful way to begin. So we have Tillamook Coast Visitors Association annual tourism report this morning with Nan Devlin, the Executive Director of Tillamook Coast Visitors Association. Good morning, Nan.
Good morning. How are you? Thank you. Hello, Commissioners, Rachel, Jordan, everyone. Thank you. So this is the annual report that we report a semi-annual report and an annual report, and this is for the last fiscal year, 2022-2023. And this was an amazing year in many ways. It was a very rewarding year. It was also a very challenging year. But what I found, and someone gave me advice years and years ago, is that just when you think things are going down, that's your window to go back up. And he said it in a little different terms that I can't repeat here. But that was his intent, to tell me that when just be prepared, because when things change and you think things are going downhill, it's because you're getting directed uphill. So, and in our case, it's been very good. We have some exciting new ideas, new staff members, one of whom is here, Marnie Johnston, who is our new finance and grants manager. And she's brought just a wealth of experience, both in hospitality and financial management, to our team. We also hired Nicole Steen, and if that last name sounds familiar, her mother, Ellen Steen, is the one who writes the Cape Mears fence post in the Headlight Herald. She has grown up here on Cape Mears, knows the county very well, has multiple family members here. And she lives in Salem, but she's here just about every weekend and week. So she's our new communications strategist, and we really needed that because we have to get the word out about many of the projects that we're working on and to create proposals and things for grants and stuff. So she's been a terrific addition as well. So I want to go through our 3 R's and the highlights that we did this year. And despite the fact that most of the year it was just Dan and me working, I think we kicked butt. So I want to start first with return on relationships. And one of the initiatives in return on relationships is culinary agritourism. So the North Coast Food Trail entered its 6th year this year. We get calls from around the nation and even places like Ireland and Iceland asking for us to help them form their food trail or to give us advice. We have 83 members, all survived COVID. Several expanded, a few have sold recently, but they're all still in business. I'm just amazed by the hard work that they did to stay in business. It's great. We formed a 501c3 for Partners for World Food Systems, and this will include, and that was really thanks to 3 Business Oregon ROI grants we received. We are now working on a design for the building at Port of Tillamook Bay, an agriculture-based building. And then we'll start on the Garibaldi seafood section. And we have great partners. We're working on the building plan. We're going to get construction costs, and that'll open the doors for us to get grants to start building. Our partners include both ports, but also Oregon Food Bank, Colpack Food Routes, the Tillamook Creamery among them. And it's been great. We have a board that also includes Sarah Masoni from the Food Innovation Center in Portland. She asked to be on it, and she's part of OSU Extension, and they received quite a bit of money from the feds to invest in food entrepreneurship and other kinds of businesses, and she wanted to be on our board so she could help direct some of that funding to us. So we're very, very happy about that. And then on May 1st, we held a food industry conference, an all-day conference, and we brought in farmers, fishers, harvesters, people who had started a food hub in other areas, and they talked about what issues they are dealing with. And of course, staff shortage is huge, just huge, seconded by workforce housing. So they'd like to recruit people to come and work here, but they have no place to live. So we think we're going to make that food industry conference an annual event because it was very well received. We had about 70 people show, and we had great feedback from that. In cultural heritage, we hosted the Tillamook Swiss Society Centennial last November, which was the party of the year. And November, thanks to the commissioners, they named November as the Swiss Cultural Heritage Month, and we'll be sharing Swiss culture stories and videos all through November on social media. And we also, after many years, we updated the Tillamook County Food Trail brochure, and we modernized it, and we made it much more accessible and readable, and we put in several maps. So for walking tours, for the original 13 pioneer quilt trails, and with much bigger images so people could identify those signs. And this just went out like about 6 weeks ago. So that took about a year and a half to do this project because there were so many changes in the quilt trail stuff. And also we did, just awarded two $1,000 scholarships to two TBC students that are studying in the Outdoor Natural Resources Program, both young women, and we're really looking forward to hoping that they'll work with us as interns next summer, especially on our Volunteer Adventures program, which I'll get into in a minute. In return on responsibility, destination development has been one of the most rewarding things we've done this year, and that is the community planning sessions. This year we did, through the fiscal year, Bay City, Manzanita, Oceanside, and Cape Mears, and I know many from here, Mary Faith, or Commissioner Bell, Sarah Apsher, Public Works took part in those sessions in Oceanside, and these towns are getting big turnouts and big involvement, and it's not just about destination management and tourism monies going into those areas, but also what the community wants, and this gives them a chance to tell their cities even and their city councils what they would like to see to enhance their own communities. And last Monday night, we had workshop number 2 in Rockaway Beach, and we'll have another one, I think it's November 13th, we'll be having the 3rd workshop, and then we'll be doing Neacharts and Tillamook after the first of the year. So these have been as rewarding for us as I hope they've been for these towns, because we learn a lot, and we learn what we can do to help them. Of course, Dan created the facilities planning report, and we really hope to have a meeting with you to see which of those projects you might like us to manage on your behalf. We can do that. We conducted an ADA accessibility review of county parks with recommendations for lodging and restaurant properties, and that consultant, it's Empowering Access, is coming back on, I think it's November 6th. And they'll be presenting at TVCC, and we've invited quite a few people to come and hear what she has to say about more things we can do in accessibility. In wayfinding, we completed Rockaway Beach and the Pacific City Broughton Road area, and we've also started Bay City wayfinding. Right now, we're working on Cape Mears, Manzanita, and soon Oceanside, and Neacharts for wayfinding. So we'll get those plans ready for budget time. In public safety, we worked with South County Emergency Volunteer Corps, and we created window clings for all the STRs, so they won't call 911 unless it's an actual emergency. So all these other places you can call, including the hotline. Assisted 4 fire districts with volunteer recruitment posters, and we also produced an animated beach safety video. In stewardship, we did another video that featured the work of the Tillamook Working Lands and Waters Cooperative. I absolutely love this video because it really shows collaboration between farms, forests, forestry, and fisheries, and it's a model for the state. I would say it's a model for the nation. It's really wonderful, and the true message of why they're doing this comes out, and that is they want to preserve our land and waters for future generations, and that was repeated throughout. And this is really exciting. Dan launched the Volunteer Adventures program this year, and we did 2 pilot programs, and one with a group of Girl Scouts from Portland. We did a women in leadership panel at the Hoffman Center for these girls, and Commissioner Bell was part of it, along with City Councilor Linda Kozlowski, other people, and Claudine Wren from TEP was there. And the girls asked such smart questions, and I thought, gosh, when I was a Girl Scout, we did bake sales, car washes, and we crocheted. And these girls have like life-changing projects they want to take part in. It was just so inspiring. And then the Linfield College students came out, and most of those students were women, and I guess they just worked their butts off. They cleared off a trail at the Alderbrook Farm. And the Alderbrook Farm thought they'd only get about a quarter of it done, and they got 3/4 of it done, and they were just thrilled about it. So we already have groups booked for next summer. We're really glad about that. This is also really fun, and I have to really thank the community for this. We added 3 electric track chairs to the county, and that added to our 9 beach wheelchairs that are already in place. So a really huge thanks to the Manzanita Visitor Center, Bruce and Teresa Loveland at Happy Camp Lodge, and Bob Papke in Pacific City. And Bruce and Teresa and Bob all built sheds, container sheds with electric service in there, so they maintain them, as does Manzanita Visitor Center, and they're very, very popular. And we just put out a notice about what dates King Tides are happening, so people will block, those dates are blocked off so they can't rent them. But yeah, we're hoping to get more in David's chairs. And then in return on investment, we do invest in information and marketing, and this is to help our tourism industry. And we focus on very, very targeted audiences to support our industry sectors. So we do a visitor guide, of course, and it's a great one this year. It's quite beautiful. Tillamook County maps and tide books. We did the Quilt Trail brochure. For the Food Trail, which is a cooperative that we work with our tourism partners in Clatsop County, and we sponsor the Oregon Public Broadcasting Superabundant program, which is all about Northwest foods. And it's a wonderful newsletter and online program. It won an Emmy in its first year, and we're the exclusive sponsor for that. And also the OPB Oregon Field Guide for outdoor recreation, and we're currently talking about our GIS trail map on that program. We also sponsored the Explore Oregon podcast, which is by an outdoor writer for the Salem Statesman Journal, Zach Luness. And right now we are doing the volunteer adventures. We're also going to be talking about king tides and safety around king tides. The other thing that's great about this podcast is they use some of their sponsorship money for interns in outdoor writing, outdoor recreation writing. So we like that a lot. Northwestern Sports Radio is for recreational fishing, and it goes all over the Northwest. And I think that they interviewed Commissioner Scar's husband, right? Yeah, it was a good one. We also do Oregon Beach Connection, which is a beachconnection.net, which is an amazing online site that talks a lot about geology and rock formations and things. Some are here on the coast is wonderful. And then each year, and this just broadcast on October 6th, every year we do the Oregon Harvest documentary that's on KOAN TV, and this year we featured the Tillamook beekeepers, Wilson View Dairy's new automated dairy farm, and Tillamook Bay Seafoods. And then, of course, grants are reinvestment. And in grants, the grants we got in were about $157,000 this year. Travel Oregon, Colpack, and Business Oregon. And out, $630,000 for facilities, marketing, signage, sponsorships, and we also manage Rockaway Beach marketing grant. But I've been working on them for a couple of years, and now they're doing a facilities grant called a facade improvement grant, and which has to fit. It fits into how their ordinance is worded. So anyway, it's been a really active, very good year overall. And looking ahead, we've got some big projects coming up. This is workforce training programs for high schools. And it's a Pro Start program. We're working with Northwest Oregon Works and Orla, Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association, to start a Pro Start program in one of our high schools. It's a pilot program. We'll continue with entrepreneur training through Co-Starters. We're seeking funding for the Ag Center at Port of Tillamook Bay. We're going to expand volunteer adventures. We're doing strategic communications and outreach on accessibility and food systems. We want to work with more nonprofits and cities on off-season events. We worked with Garibaldi on their seafood and spirits, which did pretty well, and we'd like to help them do more of that because we're not doing events anymore ourselves. Crave the Coast and Beer and Cheese Festival was really successful, but we just don't have the staff to do it. It takes a lot of time. So we want to help others. And Marnie and I are going to start working on a plan for a TID, which I have talked with Commissioner Scar about for a couple of years. And this is what we hope to do, but this is a volunteer effort. A TID is like the hotels, and restaurants can do it too, but we'll start with hotels. It's a volunteer fee, $1 or $2 a night. It is not a tax, it's all volunteer. Visitors pay it, and we get that money, and it goes into a separate bank account pool, and the participants, the lodging properties, get to decide where that goes, but we will have an agreement in place before that it goes to like emergency services, something like that. Because I know that many of our fire districts and rescue groups, they want those heavy lifting drones, and they don't qualify for TLT because they're not a 10-year real property. It's not in their budget to buy them. We'd love to get the money to get those to them because those are life-saving efforts. We're also having fun with some videos. Travel Oregon gave us a $20,000 grant to do a series of videos that we're calling Cooking with the Chefs of the North Coast Food Trail. And we have a woman, Donna Riani, who used to run the Lincoln City Culinary Center. She's our local Julia Child. So it's going to be like Julia Child with the chefs talking about all the local foods, how they're prepping. We'll create recipes and get those all published. And of course, wayfinding goes on, Wheeler, Manzanita, Cape Mears, and Oceanside. So it's going to be a big year. Any questions?
Thank you, ma'am, that was wonderful. Commissioners, questions and comments?
Oh, thanks, Nan. It's so nice to have you here and to hear from you. You know, as a liaison to your board, I hear about these things on an ongoing basis, but it is truly remarkable to reflect on everything you've accomplished in a year, especially with just a couple staff members.
Yeah.
So bravo, you're doing really, really beautiful, important work and doing it with just a few people.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's impressive, truly, and contributing to the economic viability of our community, to the sustainability of businesses in our community. And I was thinking while you were talking about how grateful I am that you know, I think sometimes people still think, oh, you know, the TLT, the 70% has just been being spent to promote tourism, but it really isn't. You know, we've pivoted dramatically from that in the last number of years, and to work on the way that you're working now, what it's really about is helping our businesses survive.
Yeah.
And so it's economic development for local businesses, and it's very important.
You know, I did a presentation to the George Washington University in May. That's where I got my master's. And it was for the graduate program in tourism, and it was filled with international students. And the director of the program, when I was done, he said, you know, I've been looking all over the United States for a DMO that's doing community-based tourism, and you're the only one I have found.
Wow.
And I don't think when we first started this organization, or the county and EDC first started this, that was the whole focus. And I don't even think they might have known that they were embarking on community-based tourism. Because what I heard over and over was we have to get this money back into the community. And that's what's happened ever since. And this, Tillamook County is the only one doing this in the state at the level we're doing it.
Oh, bravo.
Yeah.
And just a couple of highlights from your awesome report that's full of highlights. I love the Volunteer Adventures program. So I think work parties are fun,
Yeah.
personally. I love it when people come together and work on a project together, and I think it's a wonderful way to bring people here. As you said, I was invited to be part of the Girl Scout work party,
Yeah.
and it was just so great. It was a bunch of girls and moms and Girl Scout leaders from other areas. There was one family, I think, that was local, and the rest of them were from the Portland area. And they came and they did projects here. They did beach cleanup, and did some crafts with the debris, like plastic debris from the beach. They turned it into art, and it was just remarkable. And you're right, the panel that we had with them, like Women in Leadership panel, it was so much fun.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, because I was a Girl Scout when I was a kid, I agree with you. I was thinking, in the moment, I wish we'd done something like this with Girl Scouts.
I know.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
And I was thrilled to hear about the Linfield project. I think that's great. I was a Linfield student. Again, I was thinking, wow, we didn't have anything like that when I was a Linfield student. You know, it's just a great opportunity. And a really wonderful way to incorporate the lessons of stewardship, to incorporate stewardship and the visitor experience.
Yes.
And I know, we've been talking about that for years, how to educate people about how to act when they come here,
Yeah.
and how to care for our home in the way we do.
Yeah.
And so you're actively, that's really happening now, and this program is contributing to it, which I love. And I loved it that you started some scholarships through TVCC for, remind me of the category.
The outdoor nature program.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Yeah, natural resources.
That's it,
yeah.
natural resources, thank you. It was inspiring that I saw Dan and learned about these scholarships at the Mildred Davy event just last week, I think.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And they had a student speaker who was a recipient of the scholarship, and she was talking about how much it means to her and what she intends to do with it. And she's currently a zookeeper, and she wants to be a biologist, I think, and she wants to work here. And it was it was a wonderful story, and I think I appreciate the tie to natural resources. And so there are so many great things you're doing. The accessibility work is very important. And I love the track chairs, it's so great to have those track chairs north, central, and south, so that people can actually get out onto the beach and experience the beach who otherwise could not.
Yeah.
So, and welcome to Marnie. We're super happy to have Marnie be part of the organization. You bring a wonderful depth of skill and expertise to this organization, and I'm really glad that you're part of it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner?
And I concur with everything Commissioner Bell says. You're doing a great job. You're really expanding your programs, which to me is so important. I mean, you're working now with Public Safety Support and Messaging, South Tillamook County Emergency Volunteer Corps. I was a board member for a lot of years there, working with the local fire departments to bring in volunteers. I mean, this is all really, really important stuff. I've been working with Tillamook Working Lands and Waters for just a lot of years. Your work with that group now and continuing work with that group is really, really important. This is an important message that we can send not only to the residents of Tillamook County and our visitors, but across the nation.
Yes.
Tillamook Working Lands and Waters is really doing some amazing work, mostly educational type work of what today's natural resource-based industries are all about.
Yeah,
and
I
how we
agree.
operate. So I really do appreciate that. Your work with bringing David's chairs and track chairs and the big balloon wheel wheelchairs. I mean, it's just great. So again, I appreciate everything you've done in the past. Now you're moving on and expanding what you're doing. I think it's just wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I agree with what my colleagues have said. It's just, you guys do so much good work, and it really is, as you talk about the community-based tourism that's bringing back to our community the resources that, end up in that 70% that everybody's like, why are we doing it? You're showing that 70% can come back and really help our economy, help our community, help our high school students, right? They're in the job training so that they can step into tourism-related work. So I mean, I think there's just so many ways that you are plugging in. And I love that the Tourism Improvement District, I think that's what the TID was, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the TID, the Tourism Improvement District, is something that you're able to move forward on. You know, we talk constantly about what is really needed to help support the tourists who are here, and public safety is a big piece that you can't directly plug that 70% into, no matter how hard you try. I know we've had lots of conversations about, but could we go it this way or that way, and you can't. But the Tourism Improvement District is a way you can.
Yes.
You know, and our operators of lodging are also clear that we do need more support for our visitors.
Yeah.
And that I love the heavy drones. I've heard that from many different folks. It's like, why don't we have these? So
Yes.
finding a way to do that, and then having those lodging operators continue to be in that conversation, continue to prioritize, hey, here's what we're seeing that our visitors really need. That's an amazing space to be working in. So thank you for doing the work
Sure.
to get to that. I know it was a lot of, do we qualify? How would we qualify?
I
Who
know.
has to be, you know,
Who's home
involved?
rule, who is
Yeah.
a home rule.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
that stuff, but
Yeah.
because it's a volunteer
Yeah.
effort and because it's not a tax,
Right.
we can do it. We just have to have willing partners, and so that's a lot of communication that we're gonna be working on. But you know, you go to a hotel, in Portland, and the hotel room might be $200, but the fees on top of that are another $200.
Right.
And a lot of them, it's just 12% of it is TLT, you know, a room tax, but then there's amenity fees, and there's, you know, walk in the door fees.
Right, parking fees.
Yeah, and you know, resort fees, you're not in a resort, resort fees. And that's how they help make their money, but it can be, I mean, I understand that, you know, they have to pay their salaries and all those things, but we're pretty inexpensive here
Yeah.
overall. I mean, there's room to raise the TLT, which would allow you to use the 30% from that raise in other ways.
I would love if, as you're talking with the operators of these lodging, because that's where that conversation is gonna land, right?
Yeah.
Because I think you're right, we're at 10%, there is space, but it's going to have to be something where we're in conversation with our lodging
Yes.
operators,
Yes.
so that they can decide how they feel about that and what sort of public campaign that they're gonna mount either for it or against it,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Because that is part of the conversation they'll need to be in.
Absolutely.
So, and I think talking about it at the same time you're talking about the TID is probably a valuable conversation.
Yeah.
Because it's saying, you know, hey, there may be this increase in TLT, and there is also this opportunity to voluntarily participate on this side.
Yeah.
Because you said Orla's in that conversation, and Orla has shared that, you know, they mirror what their members say.
Yeah,
And so in order for this to be hopefully a really positive conversation in the community for both of these potential funding sources, I think having your engagement and involvement as you're working with lodging operators would be really helpful.
yeah, and I think Orla's coming here in November. We haven't set a date yet, but Sarah Absher's setting up that meeting, and we're gonna
Perfect.
discuss different options.
I think that's great, because
Yeah.
we definitely want Orla to be a partner with us in this
Yes.
and not end up with a nasty community battle with Orla on one side and the county on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, well, thank you so much, Nan. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Moving on to our legislative administrative agenda. We have discussion and consideration of amendment number 1 to Child Abuse Investigation Agreement number 6323 with Tillamook Family Counseling Center, Inc. in fulfillment of the Oregon Department of Justice agreement for the provision of child abuse forensic interviews in Tillamook County. Matt Kelly, Under Sheriff.
That's a mouthful.
I know, I was like, is that a land use thing? Because it took forever to read it.
Morning, Commissioner.
Hello, Matt.
For your consideration is amendment to our agreement with Tillamook Counseling and Oregon Department of Justice. This is a grant that we use to fund our child abuse investigations. The agreement was up in June of 23. We have some carryover money that OJD has allowed us to spend So that's essentially what this agreement is, to amend it to January 2024 to use up the rest of that funds. The funds primarily fund Maria Bateman's position at TFCC, which she is the director of our CAC. And the idea is, that was a lot of duties that was placed on myself, our accounting technician, Karen Conroth, and our detective. It's more efficient if somebody else has that as a full-time duty. And so that's what I'm presenting today, is to agree to allow us to amend the contract so we can use that money to keep her position funded and do the duties that needs to be done to ensure that our child abuse investigations are done properly.
Thank you. Commissioner?
I was curious, you just mentioned something about our CAC, what does that?
Child Abuse Assessment Center.
Okay, great.
It's encompassing all of our, the next presentation is a part of that, is forensic interviewing. There's interviewing has a style for adults, but there's legal requirements how you interview a child who's a victim of child abuse. It's very specific, and so we do that in that assessment center at TFCC. Also, there's a medical examination that's part of the investigation, so we can properly investigate these crimes so that the perpetrator is held accountable. And the main focus is that we don't want to do, it's not uncommon for an adult to be interviewed multiple times on an investigation. That's something we strive not to do with a child, because every time anybody, an adult or a child, goes through an event, you're reliving that event. And it does cause more trauma. Adults can handle that better, children can't. So we're trying to limit that and get it all in one shot, get it all done correctly, and then allow the child to heal and deal with the long-term effects of child abuse.
Thank you. It's sad to think about, and obviously, it's going on in our community. So I'm very grateful that the sheriff's office handles it with such care and integrity. Doing the very best possible things you can do for the children in that situation to help the child and to catch the offender. So I'm sorry it's necessary, and I'm really glad that we have this kind of a program to take care of child victims.
And I would concur with that, Matt. Public safety is one of the most important things that a county does, but when it comes to children, that's something that we really need to try to get a handle on and stop the abuse of children. So I'm in full support here. I am. Thank you again for what you do.
Thank you, as my, and I think the partnerships that you've created with Tellum Family Counseling Center, Adventist Health, as we'll talk about in the next item, are just crucial to having that community team that brings this together, so that as the investigators, you get what you need to hold the perpetrator accountable, and the youth and their family get what they need to heal, as you said. So yes, thank you. I think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of amendment number 1 to Child Abuse Investigation Agreement number 6323 with Tillamook Family Counseling Center, Inc. in fulfillment of the Oregon Department of Justice agreement for the provision of child abuse forensic interviews in Tillamook County, I would move approval.
I second. We have a motion and a second. Do I hear any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, item number 7, discussion and consideration of a child abuse investigation agreement with Adventist Health Tillamook in fulfillment of the Oregon Department of Justice agreement for the provision of child abuse medical assessments in Tillamook County. Kim?
So I alluded to it a little bit in the beginning. There's several different components of a child abuse investigation. There's the interview, there's talking to witnesses, there's forensic or digital evidence that is processing. One of the components is the medical portion of the investigation. So any injuries or exams needs to be done by what we call a dedicated medical provider, somebody who is specialized trained to investigate child abuse and how to collect that evidence so it can be presented in court. Over the last few years, we've struggled. We used to have a dedicated medical provider here in the county. That person decided to not do this anymore. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, which is why Maria is so instrumental, With all my additional duties and other additional duties, sometimes I can't put full effort into certain things. And so we've been trying to find a person to do this in county, because in the meantime, what we've had to do is to go have these exams done at different CAC centers throughout the state, usually in the valley, Juliet's house and someplace. And it works, but it is difficult because a local victim has to go somewhere else. And so you're taking another day or two to do these things in a different venue. It's much easier if you can just do it here in the county. After a lot of work, and mostly on Maria's behalf, we have somebody here, person that is a physician for Adventist Health, and so we will be able to bring those services out back into our county. And it's much easier for the victims, it's easier for the detectives, they don't have to travel to the valley and wait, and waste is a wrong word, totally wrong word. It lessens the travel time to get these exams done. So our agreement is with the Adventist Health is to provide those services, and then the grant will fund that position by hourly. That will get a bill from Adventist Health.
Thank you. Questions?
That's really great news. It's really great news that that's coming back around. There was a period, like you just said, when we just didn't have, we couldn't offer those services, and the idea of having to tell victims and their families and the officers who accompany them, well, you're gonna have to go to Salem or go to McMinnville, and maybe it'll take all day, and it just makes everything so much worse. So I'm really grateful for your work on this. Thank you.
We have some great partners in Tillamook County. Tillamook County Counseling and Adventist Health are two of those great partners, and this is perfect. We need to do all we can for our kids, keep them from having to drive miles and hours to get the treatment and care that they need. So having these things available in Tillamook is not great, but something we have to do. So thank you for all your work on this, Matt.
Yeah, I'd like to expand on that a little bit. See, this is a lot of work. It's been several years that I've been working on some of this stuff. And as you said, that we could not have done it without TFCC and Adventist Health. We're probably the smallest part of that, because otherwise the whole thing has to go somewhere else. And we are very reliant on their help and their willingness to support.
Right.
Thank you, yeah, and I understand that Maria at TFCC has a really strong passion for this work. In my conversations with Frank, as we were talking about, does this remain at TFCC? How can they make that work? It was so clear that her passion for having this remain in Tillamook County is such a key piece to that being able to happen. And you referenced her getting out to Adventist Health and finding that right physician and getting that going. So big shout out to Maria for sure. Takes a team.
I agree.
So, of which you are a vital member. Okay, I think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, consideration of a child abuse investigation agreement with Adventist Health Tillamook in fulfillment of the Oregon Department of Justice agreement for the provision of child abuse medical assessments in Tillamook County. I would move approval.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Madam.
Commissioner.
Moving on to item 8, discussion and consideration of modification number 1 to professional services agreement number 6350 with Environmental Science Associates, ESA, for the Renegade Creek Culvert Replacement Primary Design Project. Chris Lady, Director of Public Works.
What? Not by Chris Lady.
Oh, Jasper, hello!
I was going to say, Chris, you've changed.
It's not just the backdrop that's changed today, it's the entire person. Well, Jasper, welcome.
So this is a modification, as you mentioned, to the professional services agreement 6350 for Renegade Creek. This is a creek that has a significant number of flooding issues for us. It's down off of Sand Lake Road, right next to the Sitka Sedge State Park. And the replacement of this culvert, or whether it's designed for a bridge and such, is all tied into the eventual modification of the dike that is located here at Delmar. And the timing for that has extended a bit, and since the two projects are tied, we're just seeking an extension of the contract with Environmental Services Associates for the preliminary design of what solution is most practical for Renegade Creek at this location.
Perfect, thank you. Questions, commissioners?
I do not.
Okay. Commissioner?
Jasper, I appreciate it very much. A matter of fact, I was just in contact with Dennis Comfort of OPRD, talking about the alternatives they have for the setback dikes and all. And of course, I had to remind him one of the major concerns that the residents of Tierra Del Mar have is that we can't be increasing the possibility of flooding because of the placement of the setback dikes. And Dennis was totally open and said, yeah, that is their first and foremost thing that they're going to make sure that they don't do. So appreciate your work on this. Putting this off until they actually design the project just makes so much sense. No reason that we go in and do it if you have to do it over again. So thank you for what you do.
Yeah, nope, I agree. I was there one time when it was running over the road and you all were there just trying to figure out how, it looked like we had maintenance going on in the ditch trying to mitigate the flooding. So thank you for the work you do to keep the road open until this can be corrected appropriately, but extending the contract makes sense. So I think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of modification number 1 to professional services agreement number 6350 with Environmental Science Associates, ESA, for the Reneke Creek Culvert Replacement Preliminary Design Project, I would move approval.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Do I hear any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks, Jasper.
Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to item number 9, discussion and consideration of an order in the matter of ordinance amendment number 851-23-000210-PLNG in the Department of Community Development. We have Sarah Absher, Director from the Department of Community Development. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning.
Oh, we have
Good
Melissa
morning.
too. Hi,
Yeah,
Melissa.
Good morning.
So I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to Melissa so she can continue to wrap up this ordinance amendment, and I'm here to help answer any questions if needed.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Today we're before you. On October 11th, we met with you regarding the ordinance revisions to our forest template dwelling provisions. You agreed to some revisions to the proposed amendment, specifically amendment to a double if statement that was rendered in the original proposed amendments. So we are back before you today with an order based upon your findings and discussion and with the amendments that were presented.
Perfect, thank you. We had a very thorough conversation, as you mentioned, on October 11th. Were there any questions left, Commissioners, or concerns?
Well, just for people who may be watching who were not watching on October 11th, this ordinance revision is so that our ordinances align with the state ordinances. So it's basically just an update for us because we can't, in reality, have different ordinances than the state.
Perfect, thank you.
And so, Melissa, I was remiss when you presented this last October 11th. I was. These things come before us all the time. These are very complex issues. You did just such a great job in the presentation of this ordinance amendment. And at the end of it, I was just so flabbergasted. You two walked out. I didn't get a chance to thank you and let you know from my perspective what a terrific job you did in presenting everything you had to present here. And so I just wanted to point that out. You and Sarah make a great team, but Sarah needs to watch her back right now because you are coming up. You are, and I appreciate it so much. I can tell you've put so much work into this and what you do, and I can tell you love what you do. By your presentation, it was flawless. So I just needed to say that.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you. Yes, thank you very much. This was complicated. What was the word that we learned? It was a mathematical term.
The mathematical centroid.
The centroid. We all got to
Yes.
learn what a centroid was because
Centroid.
that's important in this conversation. So thank you for all that you've done. We appreciate it. And I think that we're ready for a motion.
Ready for a motion. Madam Chair, in consideration of an order in the matter of an ordinance amendment number 851-23-000210-PLNG in the Department of Community Development, this being Board Order number 23-069, I would move approval.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 10, discussion and consideration of a personnel requisition for a returning retired employee, 150 days on call, Parks Building and Ground Maintenance Tech 2 in the Parks Department. We have Jody Wilson, Director of our Human Resources Department. Good morning, Jody.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
It has been a past practice that when our retirees leave, should they come back in a voluntary employment basis, that we do ask the board's permission to rehire them. Dave has been a longtime employee with the county. He has a lot of historical knowledge, and this is where that nature of bringing back our retirees for a period of time after their retirement is to help train those replacements, to try to pass on that historical knowledge to those returning or still there after they leave. So I have no concerns about this particular request, and I make a full recommendation to bring Dave back.
Thank you. Questions or concerns, Commissioner?
Dave Dimmitt has been a valued employee, and we're very grateful that he's willing to come back. So my personal thanks to Dave Dimmitt for coming back and providing some leadership to maintenance in the parks.
Jody, thank you for being here today. It's great to see you, and it's great to know that you are in full support here. You're doing a great job at HR, so I want you to keep up that good work, but I have no questions and am in full support.
Okay, thank you. I would just have, can you just explain the 150-day really quick for people who are wondering how someone can retire and then come back and be our employee again? Isn't that a double dipping scenario?
So there are some rules and eligibility. The 150-day rule is a little aged in its definition, but the intention are there's some types of employees that are not eligible for our pension program, our benefit program, and work outside the union. There's usually 3 cases for that. So if you work less than 20 hours, and this applies to our AFSCME and our non-represented, so if you work less than 20, you're non-benefited and considered a casual employee. So with that program, you're not eligible for the pension or health insurance and some of those more ACA items. You do get Oregon sick leave by statute. If you qualify for the new paid leave Oregon, you'd also have protections under that. But that's usually the benefits that we provide. We do pay about $2.60 a month for an EAP for part-time employees, recognizing that if anything happens, we want to try to take care of them. So that's a very minor expense for our casual employees. The second exception is our seasonal employees, and that's where the 150 number came from. When the Affordable Care Act came in, they broadened that said an employee can come back and work 180 days full-time as a seasonal. That has to be a traditional season. So if we think about our park season that we're applying here, we may have a voter season, it could be an election season, it could be our summer programming at the library. I will tell you there's probably not an administrative season, but tax season. So you have to have some sort of bona fide season that would bring that time on and off. But that also is an exception under the ACA for benefits, under our pension program, and you get your paid sick leave and the EAP, but those are ways that we can have casual employees in and out that do not consider, that's not considered double dipping in that manner. Now, if you worked over those limits, work them beyond 180 days, then those benefits, either through the pension program, through the Affordable Care Act, or our regular benefit program, and accruals would kick in if we're working them over those hours on a consistent basis. We don't think one time would consider that consistent, but if that is a regular and ongoing basis, it would trigger those other benefits that needed to be paid.
Thank you. I know that they do that at the state as well quite frequently, where they will bring someone back who's retired for a window of time. So it's a somewhat common practice, but I also do hear people say, that doesn't seem right. So thank you for the explanation. Okay, I think we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of a personnel requisition for a returning retired employee, 150 days on call, Parks Building and Grounds Maintenance Tech 2 in the Parks Department, I would move approval.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item number 11, discussion and consideration of an order in the matter of the reappointment of a member to the Northwest Area Commission on Transportation, and this one is mine. So I, as a commissioner, sit on the Northwest Area Commission on Transportation, which is really sort of an advisory body to ODOT. We meet every other month, and ODOT shares with us what the projects are that they have going on. We have the opportunity to talk with them about what the priorities are in our region. Historically, there was actually money that came, that the act had the ability to help direct. That money is no longer available, so now we are an advisory. So we are just finishing our current plan, which will go to the state transportation committee, and it will indicate what the priorities are in our region, because the Northwest Act is a regional body. It covers Tillamook, parts of Columbia, and parts of Western Washington. So we, all of us have come together to help prioritize what their biggest needs are across the region, and that will go to the Transportation Commission in the next couple of months. So what we also have is we have members from the community who serve on the Northwest Act, and Nicole Stevens is one of our community members who has been serving. She came in and I believe took over part of a term that was remaining. So at this time, they've been serving very successfully, and they are willing to continue to serve. So we are looking to reappoint Nicole Stevens to the Northwest Act in our Citizen at Large position. Are there any questions? No? Okay, Commissioner?
Again, I always mention this, Tillamook County cannot do without its volunteers. This is one of the many volunteer positions that we ask to be filled by people of the county. And this is great work that they do. We can't do this without them. So Nicole, thank you so much for being on Northwest Act and for your ability, your desire to be reappointed. I'm in full support.
Excellent, thank you. I think we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of an order in the matter of the reappointment of a member to the Northwest Area Commission on Transportation, this being Board Order number 23-070, I would move approval.
I second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 12, discussion and consideration of modification number 2 to Personal Services Agreement number 5052 with Federal Engineering, Inc. for the voted simulcast of the Tillamook County Public Safety Communication System Project. Rachel Haggerty, Chief of Staff.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
In 2021, after a competitive process, Tillamook County hired Federal Engineering to assist the county and its partners to upgrade the countywide public safety radio communication system. They are currently still under contract. It goes through June of 2024. We'll extend beyond that, but that's the current expiration date. Built into the request for proposals and the contract are multiple phases because this was a long-term project. They completed first an assessment of the system. They worked with the partners to develop the preferred concept. That has been completed, and now as we work through funding scenarios and gearing up for the design build, hopefully beginning in 25, I would like to present to the board this amendment that allocates money, because right now they have a contract, but there's no money allocated to it. It's just $10,000, which will assist me and partners as we work through the next year in securing funding. And then I'm sure there'll be more money we allocate at a later date. So looking for approval to add $10,000 to Federal Engineering's contract. Money can come out of, we have $30,000 allocated toward the radio project in ARPA, and we had last fiscal year funding allocated toward the radio project in general, and there's $6,500 that carry over, so we can use it there. So looking for your approval.
All right, thank you. Questions, Commissioners? I fully support it.
Thank you, Rachel, for all the work you're doing, have been doing, and will continue to do on this new communication system we're trying to develop. Such an important part of our public safety system in Tillamook County. So many dead spots, and it's difficult for us to get parts for the current system that we have anymore. So we're getting very close to being able to fund this new system. And I, again, appreciate all your work on this. I'm in full support.
Perfect. I agree. I was at a community safety meeting last night here in Tillamook, and the radio project came up there. as people are beginning to be aware that we are making, hopefully very soon, making the upgrades that are needed to that system. So, yeah, definitely need to do it. So, I think we are ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of modification number 2 to personal services agreement number 5052 with Federal Engineering, Inc. for the voted simulcast of the Tillamook County Public Safety Communication System project, I would move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to item number 13, discussion and consideration of a transient lodging tax grant agreement number 2023-P-2 with the Salmonberry Trail Foundation for the Salmonberry Trail Organizational Capacity Year 3 project. Rachel Haggerty, Chief of Staff.
One of the entities that the Board of Commissioners has elected to provide annual TLT funding to is the Salmonberry Trail Foundation. So before you today is execution of or consideration of the contract in the amount of $100,000. You heard their presentation last week where they provided a lot of detail on what they're working on. Specifically, this scope of work identifies their efforts in this next fiscal year working on building trails with the Rockaway Connector, Tillamook Creamery Path, Wheeler Connector, refining the project planning in Bay City, and researching partnerships for the river segment and creek races, and then additionally just trying to diversify their funding. So this is ready for consideration.
Perfect. Thank you. Questions or comments, Commissioners?
It was a pleasure to hear their presentation last week, and I'm excited about the work. I'm glad that we're contributing TLT to that work to move forward.
So this $100,000 we're contributing, this should complete the Salmonberry Trail project, right?
Yes, all 82 miles.
I am just kidding. This is a fantastic opportunity right here in Tillamook in Washington County. But this is a long-term project. This is going to take a lot of money. We're making progress on it. We really are. So I'm in full support here.
Perfect, thank you. This is a project I inherited from Commissioner Bartline, and he is still actively involved on both STIA and the Salmonberry Trail Foundation. And every meeting he says, are we going to get to have it walk any of this before I die? Will any of this get built before I die? So Bill's always there reminding us that there is no time to dilly-dally. So it's
dilly-dally, okay.
Yeah, it's a great project, and really I can't say enough about what this contribution from this county has done to catalyze this organization and to move this project forward. So from sitting on those two boards and just seeing the impact of these dollars, it's phenomenal. And they have now been joined by dollars from Washington County as well as the parks and the Department of Forestry. And there's just a lot coming together right now. Awesome. I would look for a motion, please.
Madam Chair, in consideration of a transient lodging tax grant agreement number 2023-P-2 with Salmonberry Trail Foundation for the Salmonberry Trail Organizational Capacity Grant. No, I'm sorry. Salmonberry Trail Organizational Capacity Year 3 project. I would move approval.
I second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 14, discussion and consideration of a Business Oregon Direct Legislative Award for the Shiloh Levee Rehabilitation Project. Rachel.
We are getting closer to repairing the Shiloh levee. This is a 1,200-foot long levee along the Wilson River, just upstream of the Wilson River Historic Bridge. So it protects the footings of the bridge, as well as Highway 101 going north in the City of Tillamook's North Business District. 71 years old. It's had some minor repairs over the years, but it needs some significant rehabilitation at this point. We are looking at a price tag of about $4.3 million. Before you today is some of the paperwork that needs to be presented to Business Oregon to prepare a contract that we are receiving through Senate Bill 5506. And this is the work that Representative Javity and Senator Weber did on Tillamook County's behalf in securing the money from the state capitol. So the amount is $1,267,000, and it will be allocated between engineering and construction management, as well as the actual construction, which is slated for 2025 at this point. Other funding that will support the project is, and I should have this before you in the next week or two, $400,000 coming through the state through the Special Public Works Fund. And then in fiscal year 24-25, we should be able to secure the balance through the Special Public Works Fund. Alternatives to that are we do have a 0% loan that we could take out that's afforded to us through the same Special Public Works Fund. And we are still waiting to hear from our congressional spending request in the amount of $1.5 million. That is still outstanding through Wyden and Merkley's office. So we are confident that we're going to be able to pull this together. We're moving ahead accordingly. I just talked to Director Lady at Public Works, and he's going to start working on preparing the request for proposals to hire the consultant who will do the actual engineering and prepare the construction documents and permitting package. To date, we just have the concept of an assessment. We know what we need to do and generally how much it's going to cost. So he's hoping to work on that over the next month, and hopefully we have someone on board by the end of the year who can start working on the design and start drawing down some of this funding that is ready for consideration.
Perfect, thank you. Questions and comments?
That is exciting. I don't know for how long the Shiloh levee repair has been on our list of federal funding priorities, but someone told me 14 years at least. So, do you know, Rachel?
I don't. We have records of it. I've been here 8 years, and it's been every one of those years.
Yeah, so it's thrilling that it's actually happening now. The funding is coming together. I'm interested in a 0% loan from the organization that's willing to fund the money, because presumably they wouldn't loan us the money if they didn't intend to fund it. So that's very interesting to me, because it's I think, you know, we hear from folks in the North Tillamook, North Main corridor that every year they're afraid this is going to be the year the levee fails. So the sooner the better, and thank God we're so close. So thank you for your diligent ongoing work on this. And thanks also to Senator Weber and Representative Javity for working to get this funding through the last legislative session.
Yeah, I concur with everything that Commissioner Bell just said. This has been on our congressional priorities list for a lot of years. It was always behind the South Jetty repair for Tillamook Bay. We got that money, which was terrific. I think this was always number 2 or number 3 on our list, and it's coming to fruition, and it needs to be done. It really does. So, again, Rachel is to be congratulated here. She's cobbled together all these different funding streams, which is terrific. And we're not fully sure where all the money's coming from, but it certainly looks like it's going to be repaired. Knock on wood, before it should fail. So we're on our way.
Perfect, yes, we are on our way, and I want to thank the Tillamook Bay Flood Improvement District. So Tilda Jones has been a tireless champion for this project, and one of the things I always say is that in Tillamook County, if you want to get something done, if it has a champion, it will happen. And Tilda's been a tireless champion, along with the other members of the Tillamook Bay Flood Improvement District, constantly keeping this in everyone's awareness and really just raising the flag that yes, today it's working, but we don't know when that stops. And this is a really complicated project. It will require diverting the river. I mean, that was one of the things that was very eye-opening to me when we started really talking about what will this cost. I mean, how hard can it be? Put a few rocks in. It was like, well, no, actually, you have to divert the water away from it, create a dry area, and do these repairs. So it is really a sizable repair that is the reason it's $4.5 million. So yes, I'm excited as well. Let's get this done.
Perfect. Madam Chair, in consideration of a Business Oregon direct legislative award for the Shiloh Levee Rehabilitation Project, I would move approval.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, as we discussed, item 15 has been postponed, so we will move on to item 16. Discussion and consideration of an order in the matter of appointing a person to fill a vacancy in the position of Board of Commissioners, position number 2. Rachel.
In August of this year, Commissioner Yamamoto announced his early retirement at the end of 2023. And so the Board of Commissioners office developed a process to refill that position after a series of one-on-one interviews, a candidate forum in a public venue, and a public interview panel with the Board of Commissioners and the candidates. Last Wednesday, Commissioner Bell and Commissioner Scar deliberated and identified Doug Olson as the appointee. So today before you is consideration of an order that would make that official. Commissioner Yamamoto has intended that he has said that he will be here through the end of December. So while we are, you are considering this order today, the appointment for Mr. Olson will not become effective until January 1st. Meanwhile, he will be everywhere David is.
I hope not everywhere.
You have a shadow.
Yeah, I do.
It's ready for consideration.
Thank you, Rachel. Doug, can I invite you up to the front? And I don't know if you are prepared to just make a few comments. We've made some comments about you, which I'm sure we'll do again. But I would love to invite you if you would like to make a few comments and introduce yourself to anyone out there watching who may not know you, although I can't imagine who that would be.
Well, thank you very much, Commissioner, and thank you all commissioners, and thank you also, Rachel. This has been an interesting process indeed, and first I'm both flattered and grateful to be sitting here this morning, because for a period of time I didn't think I was going to even turn in for it. And then I was talked into it, and I got to thinking, I really do need to do this. Over the years, so many people have said, why don't you at least throw your hat in the ring to be a commissioner? And at the time, we were running a full-time business and other matters, and I've been on other boards all along. So this is a challenge, but it's one I really, really look forward to, because I know the three of you very well. I know these two individuals as well, and I love Tillamook County. We've been here now over 30 years, and I'm a native Oregonian. I grew up in Little Hood River, which has changed a lot, by the way. In many ways, it's much like Tillamook. Years ago, back in the 60s, when I was in school, it was logging and also fruit orchards. Didn't have any dairy farms, we had a lot of fruit orchards. And that's evolved into tourism and fruit orchards, and not so much in the harvesting of logs. Somewhat like Tillamook, we now, as you heard earlier this morning, have a very large tourism component in Tillamook County. And I think that's good business as well, because it's diversified. But back to where we are, and when I will actually be seated, I guess I would tell all of you and the voters two things. One is, as I have always done, I will do my homework. I'll try and understand the issues and what's going on. I'll make it my business to talk to people to the point where I will probably annoy some of them and take more time than I should, but I'd like to know what I'm talking about. And then second of all, today you had a lot of routine matters, which I think happens every week. If there's a matter that is beyond routine and there's a split among the board, I will always try to explain to our citizens why I vote the way I do. I would say I would offer some rationale that brought me to this conclusion, and if it differs from the two remaining board members, then that's the way it is. And as I said during some of the interviews, if everybody agreed on everything all the time, you really don't need three commissioners, you only need one. But there are three under the statute, and that's the way it works. So that would be my guarantee to the people of Tillamook County. You will always know where I stand, and you will know why. And if I don't explain that clearly, call me on it, and I'll keep talking. So thank you very much, and I look forward to working with you, and I guess I'll sit up there for the next year or so, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Doug. And I also want to just give a shout out to Patty, who's sitting back there. Wave, Patty. Patty is Doug's wife, and Patty is just everywhere that Doug is in the community. She's always there supporting, and just an amazing person as well. So when you get a commissioner and they're married, guess what? You also get their spouse. So I just wanted to introduce Patty as well. So, all right, commissioners, I'm sure that we all have comments to make.
Well, I'm thrilled that you are willing, thank you for your willingness to spend the next year with us and be of service in this way to the community. I have heard from many people over the years, I wish Doug Olson would run, I wish Doug Olson would run. I've thought I wish Doug Olson would run. So I think you're just going to be wonderful in this position, and I look forward to working with you, and I know that you are postponing some retirement plans with Patty in order to serve in this position. And so thank you for putting your life on hold for a year in order to do this with us. I'm really grateful.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Perfect. I'm doing exactly the opposite, Doug. It's unusual, especially in Tillamook County. This has not happened before, where a sitting commissioner has decided to retire a year early. There are a lot of reasons for that. Both my wife and I turned 70 this year, and she keeps reminding me that we had plans for travel, and we're not getting any younger. We need to do this while we still can. And it really resonated with me. I love what I do. You're going to be a great fit here over the next year. There comes a time in everyone's life where a decision like this has to be made. And I had to make that very difficult decision. But looking back on it, it absolutely was the right decision for me. It was. I'm not getting any younger. But knowing that you're coming in to fill this seat for the next year makes my job of leaving a little easier. So Doug, I appreciate everything you're doing. We're going to be spending a lot of time together. I've got lots of things that I want to pass along to you. You can take everything I say with a grain of salt. But I'm looking forward to working with you, and you're going to be a great replacement for me, and I appreciate very much your stepping forward to do that. I do.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. I also value your 7 years, and in the 20-plus years we've known each other. As I told all of you before, I've never known you or any of you to do anything you didn't truly believe to be the right thing for Tillamook County. And I don't know that you can ask more than that of an elected board.
Perfect. Thank you, Doug. And I look very much forward to working with you, having worked with you on the Budget Committee and at the Tillamook Light Wave Board. I know the research, as you talked about, I know what you bring to the table. You make sure that you've explored every option. You bring a depth of experience, both from just your life and your previous jobs and your work in our community. I have no doubt that you'll be able to hit the ground running right along with us, and we're going to do good things in the coming years. So thank you so much for your willingness to serve, and I look forward to serving alongside you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Let me read this board order. Madam Chair, in consideration of an order in the matter of appointing a person, Doug Olson, to fill a vacancy in the position of Board of Commissioners, Position 2, this being Board Order number 23-071, I would move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All of those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Welcome, Doug. We'll look forward to seeing you everywhere. In the meantime, you're off to a PUD conference. Is that right?
Well, no, it's our monthly meeting of all the PUDs in Oregon.
Gotcha. All right.
And I'll be heading to Salem later today, and I've got a couple more meetings until the end of the year. But yes, there's always more than one or two things to do in a day.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
So
Part of your
good.
training.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Doug.
And thank you, Patty, for letting him do this.
Yes. Okay, we will have an executive session we will go into, but before that, do we have any board concerns for today?
No.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead then and take our board announcements and get those done before we go into our executive session. The Commissioners will hold a board briefing on Wednesday, October 25th, 2023 at 2 p.m. to discuss weekly Commissioner updates. The meeting will be held in the Board of Commissioners Meeting Room 106 in the Tillamook County Courthouse, 201 Laurel Avenue, Tillamook, Oregon. The teleconference number is 1-971-254-3149. Conference ID 736-023-979#. The Commissioners will attend a Port of Garibaldi workshop on Monday, October 30th, 2023 at 1 p.m. The workshop will be held at the Port of Garibaldi Meeting Room, 402 South 7th Street, Garibaldi, Oregon. The teleconference number is 1-971-254-3149. Conference ID 273-005-055#. All right, Bill, can you give us our...
And I believe it's under ORS 1926602D, and Bill will be here primarily, and I'll take my leave.
Okay, perfect. So we will recess this board meeting at 10:18 p.m. All right, I'm going to suggest